Behind the Guitar is brought to you by the Martin Guitar Foundation, RCN, and by viewers like you. Thank you.
Recorded live from the campus of Steel Stacks in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Ladies and gentlemen, our host, Craig Thatcher.
Welcome to Behind the Guitar. I'm your host, Craig Thatcher. Behind the Guitar is a musical performance series which focuses on stories and memories of each artist. As the co-founding member and lead guitarist of the Byrds, Roger McGuinn and his 12-string guitar pioneered folk rock. With multiple hit albums and songs, Roger and the Byrds began to have a profound influence on folk rock, psychedelic rock, and country rock music. Please put your hands together as we go behind the guitar with Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Roger McGuinn. Thank you so much, Roger. What a pleasure to have you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Crimson flames tab through my ear, growing high in mighty draft. Countless fire and flame and road, using ideas as my map. We'll meet on edges soon, said I, bright neath heated brow. Ah, but I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now. Yeah, I was so much older then, I'm younger than that now. Thank you very much.
Soundtrack to our lives from growing up in the 60s. Your music was so prominent on the airwaves, and it just had such a profound impact on so many people. Can you tell us a little bit about your beginnings? You're from Chicago?
I'm from Chicago. When I was 13 years old, they gave me a transistor radio. And that was a game changer because it meant you could listen to what you wanted to listen to instead of the big wooden box in the living room with your parents. And I wanted to listen to rock and roll. And most parents didn't like rock and roll, which was another reason why I wanted to listen to rock and roll. So I used to ride my bicycle around Chicago listening to my transistor radio. I was tuned into WJJD, which at the time was a rock station. And I heard this come over the airwaves. Well, since my baby left, I found a new place to dwell. Well, it's down at the end of lonely street. Heartbreak hotel. Well, I'll be so lonely. I'll be so lonely. I'll be so lonely I could die.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to do a full-on Elvis impersonation. But I heard that, and it really jazzed me. I mean, I'd heard other songs on the radio, like How Much Is That Doggy in the Window? And When the Moon Hits Your Eye Like a Big Pizza Pie.
That's some more, right?
For some reason, those songs didn't make me want to get a guitar and play music. But Elvis Presley did. Mm-hmm. So I asked for a guitar for my 14th birthday, and I got one. I couldn't play it very well because the strings were about that high over the fingerboard. It was better suited for slicing hard-boiled eggs than playing music.
So you started studying music at the Old Town School of Folk Music.
Yeah, well, I didn't just go there. There was a transition. I was into Elvis Presley and Gene Vincent and Carl Perkins and rockabilly very much. I loved it. And I taught myself how to play some of the songs. And I took the guitar to school and started playing it for the kids in school. And I found out the girls liked me better.
Yeah.
Well, one time I was at school and they had this assembly, which was usually pretty boring, but it was about a 45-minute set. And my music teacher invited this guy named Bob Gibson to play for us. Now, Bob was kind of a disciple of Pete Seeger's. Without the politics. He was kind of a stylist, and he played a set on the 5-string banjo that blew me away. I couldn't believe how good this guy was. So I went running to the music teacher and said, "What was that? What kind of music was that?" She said, "Well, that's folk music." And I said, "Well, I heard Burl Ives. He didn't sound like that." She said, "Well, if you're really interested in folk music, there's a school that just opened up right a couple of months earlier in Chicago called the Old Town School of Folk Music. Why don't you go over and check it out? So I went over there with my guitar and a little bit of an attitude because I taught myself how to play a couple of songs. And Frank Hamilton sat me down and said, "Show me something you know." And I played a song for him. He went, "Uh-huh." He said, "Do you know the circle of fifths?" And he demonstrated like. I said, "No, I didn't know that." He said, "Well, you know how to play the blues?" I said, "No, I didn't know that either." I said, "Well, what about finger picking?" I said, "Okay, I got a lot to learn."
Who were some of your contemporaries at Old Town?
Well, there was one guy named Mike Bloomfield, you might have heard of. And I remember one day at the Old Town School, he came up to me and said, "How do they get that sound on the guitar where it goes, I said, "You mean like bending the string?" He went, "Oh, that's great." You know, I taught him how to bend a string.
Mike Bloomfield. Whoa, that's a little known fact right today. You were playing banjo at this time?
Well, I got interested in banjo within a year.
Oh, within a year.
And I didn't have enough money to buy a banjo, but I had an electric guitar that I had absolutely no use for because folkies didn't play electric instruments. So I took all the guitar strings off and I put a nail on the 8th fret and tucked a high string under that and tuned it up like a banjo. And I learned how to play banjo on it was a K161 special. And an interesting fact is that John Lennon learned how to play on a guitar tuned like a banjo too, because his mother played banjo and she taught him a lot of banjo chords on the guitar. And he tuned his guitar like a banjo.
There's another little known fact, folks. So how did this technique with the thumb and the fingers, how did this influence your guitar playing?
Well, first of all, I played guitar like that with the thumb and fingers, and then of course I have to explain what I'm doing here. When I got in the Byrds, I had to do a lot of flat picking, so I transferred the thumb pick to a flat pick, and then I moved the finger picks down one, so I can still finger pick
with the flat pick.
But I can still. So I didn't have time to switch picks in the Byrds. We'd switch styles in songs, and I'd have to flat pick at one moment and finger pick another. The banjo playing influenced my guitar playing because I was a Scruggs style banjo player, and I did a lot of arpeggios and rolls.
Yes.
So if you listen to Turn, 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 it's like. Everything turn, turn, turn. There is a season. You can hear the arpeggio in the background. And that would be the under thing, and then I'd go in the studio and overdub the. Only I did it in double time, like.
Oh boy, that's a very cool technique.
Thank you.
Really sounds great, and you've heard it many, many times. This is what you've actually heard. You're getting the explanation. How cool is that? Oh my. So you, could you play us a little bit of the song Easter Morn?
I think Leadbelly sang it in, he called it Never Said a Mumbling Word. I think that was the title. It's a song he didn't write. It was something, Leadbelly was more of a rememberer of songs. He picked up a lot of songs, but he had a great memory, and he would remember them and transfer them to other people. And it's an interesting thing about Leadbelly. He never played minor chords. He only played major chords, but sometimes he'd sing minor over
against the major.
Against the major. But this is a song that he used to do. It's an old gospel song. On Easter morning road, on Easter morning road, on Easter morning road, for me. One day when I was lost, they hung him on a cross, they hung him on a cross for me. Oh, they marched him up the hill, they marched him up the hill. sky turned dark and gray, the sky turned dark and gray, oh, the sky turned dark and gray for me. One day when I was lost, they hung him on a cross, they hung him on a cross for me. On Easter morning road, on Easter morning road, on Easter morning road for me. One day when I was lost, they hung him on a cross, they hung him on a cross for me. Yeah, one day when I was lost, they hung him on a cross, they hung him on a cross for me.
So, Roger, what was your first paying gig?
It was a coffee house gig at the Cafe Rouet on Rush Street in Chicago. It was run by this guy named Maury, who considered himself a roué, which is a French word for a sort of a scoundrel. And he hired me for $10 a night, which is about $75 in today's money.
Today,
Not
yes.
so bad. And I was living at home, didn't have any expenses, so I was able to save up my money and buy some nice instruments.
So, you performed quite early on with the Limelighters, Chad Mitchell Trio, and Bobby Darin. Could we talk a little about
Well, yeah. Well, I walked into the gate one night with my instruments. I had a banjo and guitar in hard shell cases. I was real proud of them. And Alex Haselev from the Limelighters and Theodore Bikel were having a jam session at the bar.
Oh.
Well, the showroom was doing its thing. They were just hanging out. And Alex said, "What do you got there, kid?" And I said, "Well, I got a banjo and a guitar." He said, "Oh, great, break out the banjo. We got all these guitars going." So I did, and I played with them till 5 in the morning, which is when they closed the bars on a Saturday night in Chicago. And Alex said, "You know, we're thinking about hiring somebody to back us up. Would you be interested?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Okay, take this record home and learn the songs and meet us back at 1 o'clock for an audition."
And this is 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah, it was. And I went home and I put the record on and listened to it a little bit. And fortunately, there was some stuff on there I already knew, like, "There's a meeting here tonight, there's a meeting here tonight. I know you by your friendly face, there's a meeting here tonight. There's a meeting here tonight, glad you came along. Tell all the brothers and sisters that you heard me sing this song. There's a meeting here tonight, there's a meeting here tonight. I know you by your friendly face, there's a meeting here tonight. Yeah, there's a meeting here tonight." So I went to the audition at 1 o'clock, and I was a little shaky, but I got through it. And Alex said, "Great, you got the job. When can you start?" I said, "Well, I get out of high school in June." They said, "High school, huh? Didn't we meet you in a bar last night?" No, I said, "They let me in. I don't make any trouble."
Chicago.
Chicago. Yeah. So they said, "Well, June, that's going to work out okay because we're going to record an album on RCA in June, and at least we'd like to have you on that." And they went back to California, and I went back to high school. And it was a long time between February and June. Forgot about the whole thing. When June rolled around, I got a call from California. And it was a big deal to get a long distance call back then.
Sure.
Before cell phones with free minutes and
Right.
on weekends. And my mother gave me the phone. It was Alex. He said, "Do you remember me?" And I said, "Yeah." He said, "You still want that job?" I said, "Sure." He said, "Okay, we have to send a letter for your parents to sign because you're under 18. And when we get that back, we'll send you a plane ticket." So they sent a letter, and my parents signed it.
Wow.
And they sent me a plane ticket. And there I was flying out to LA on a Boeing 707. It's a new invention at the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they put me up on the Sunset Strip, 77 Sunset Strip. I was in show business, man.
And you're like 17?
Yeah, I was 17. I was just about to turn 18. It was July, so it was right before my birthday. And we went down to the Ash Grove where we were going to play. And the opening act got sick. And so I got to be the opening act too. So I was playing with the Limelighters and being the opening act. I was getting double money. It's
Oh.
like, I was rich.
You learned young.
For a 17-year-old.
You really did.
And then we got a gig with the opening act, the Limelighters opening for Eartha Kitt
Oh, yeah.
at the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh.
It was such a special occasion that we rented tuxedos. So we're all in our tuxedos, and I was standing in the wings, adjusting my bow tie, and I felt this slap on my bottom. And I turned to see who it was, and it was Eartha Kitt. She said, "Go get him, kid." I went, man, what a business.
Oh, yeah.
I want to be in this the rest of my life.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a thrilling experiences you had at such an early age.
Yeah, and then I bumped into this actor who was at the Ash Grove the week before the Limelighters got there. His name was David Crosby. And he was an actor. He was in a very surreal play where he was in a garbage can and people would stick their heads out of the garbage can and deliver a line and go back in. I'm not sure who wrote the play. But anyway, he and I kind of struck up a friendship. And he was just learning guitar, so I showed him a few chords. And we got to be friends. And in fact, he took me up to Santa Barbara in his car. He had a convertible with these aircraft-style 3-inch wide seat belts. He was real proud of because he had installed them himself. And then about a week later, I moved in with these kids from Cornell who were on a summer break. And we just hung out on the beach and we had Coors for breakfast. And I got my whole fraternity thing without having to go to college.
Yes, exactly.
It was really cool.
You have to pay for it.
Yeah. And then I hopped a bus, a Greyhound bus, and went up to San Francisco because I wanted to go to the Hungry Eye. I'd seen that on an album cover. And I got to San Francisco on the bus. It was about 2 in the morning. I called the number that the Limelighters had given me, and it was disconnected.
Oh.
So I had nothing going on at all. But I started hanging out at the Hungry Eye, and I ran into this guy named Adam Yogadka, who had been in the Gateway Singers. And he was friendly, and we hung out together. And then I got a call from Chicago at the Hungry Eye, because the folk community was so small. If you wanted to get a hold of somebody, all you had to do is call one of the clubs, like the Gate of Horn, or in this case, the Hungry Eye. And it was somebody from the Chad Mitchell Trio who'd heard about me working with the Limelighters, and they wanted to hire me. So they flew me to New York, and I ran into Chad, and he said, he's taking me back into the city from the airport. He said, we don't really have a trio right now. One of the guys went back to college. We have to look around and find somebody to fill in. So we went to the Village, and we didn't see anybody there. This is 1960.
Oh.
Yeah.
Your first trip to the Village?
My first trip to, I'd lived in New York as a kid, but my first trip to the Village. And so we went up to Cambridge, and we...
Oh, there's a big scene there.
We went to Club 47, and there was this beautiful older woman with long flowing black hair. Well, I say older, she was 19 and I was 18. Her name was Joan Baez.
Oh.
They asked Joan if she wanted to be in the Chad Mitchell Trio, and she graciously declined. Yeah.
Oh my.
And she wanted to be herself.
She wanted to go in a solo.
Yeah. So we went back down to New York, and we found this Broadway chorus singer who was from Lebanon, Pennsylvania, as a matter of fact.
Not far from here?
Not far from here, yeah. We passed it on the way here. And his name was Joe Frazier. And we got the trio together and made a couple of albums, got a couple of hit records, got to go on a 90-day tour of South America.
Why don't you play something else for us? We'd love to hear another song. Would you guys like to hear a song?
Okay, well, here's a song that Jim Dixon overheard a couple of record producers in Hollywood talking about Bob Dylan. Saying it's really a shame Bob can't use that great new song he just wrote because somebody was singing out of tune on it. And they got a copy of it sent out to the West Coast, and the way Bob was doing it was something like this. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy and there's no place I'm going to. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning I'll come following you. And David Crosby said, I don't like it, man. He said that folky 2/4 time, it's not going to play on the radio. Well, this is after the Beatles and the Stones were out. So I had an idea of how to fix it up. I've been playing around on my guitar with a little. I thought, what if I put something like that on the front of it for an intro? And yeah, it was Jesu Joy of Man's Desiring. I learned it from Pete Seeger's Goofing Off Suite. Yeah, he did it on banjo. If I put that on there for an intro and we cut it down to one verse about the boot heels, because the Beatles wore these really cool boots. And so we shortened it down for radio to under 2 minutes and 30 seconds, which was their limit on AM radio. They wouldn't play anything longer. And I changed the time signature from the 2/4 to 4/4. And it came out like. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy and there ain't no place I'm going to. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning, I'll come following you. Take me for a trip upon your magic swirling ship. All my senses have been stripped, and my hands can't feel the grip, and my toes too numb to step. Wait only for my boot heels to be wandering. I'm ready to go anywhere. I'm ready for to fade on to my own parade and cast your dancing spell my way. I promise to go under it. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. I'm not sleepy and there ain't no place I'm going to. Hey, Mr. Tambourine Man, play a song for me. In the jingle jangle morning, I'll come following you.
I just went back to 1966 for a minute. That was just beautiful. So, before the Byrds and after Chad Mitchell and the Limelighters, you actually did some work with Bobby Darin.
I did. As I mentioned before, on the 90-day tour of South America, it was kind of hectic. I was glad to get back to the States. And we were at the Crescendo Club in LA, opening up for Lenny Bruce.
Oh. How old were you now?
19.
Okay.
Yeah. 19. And Lenny was hilarious
Yeah.
when he wasn't in jail. Bobby Darin was in the audience, and I think he was there to see Lenny, but he sat through the Chad Mitchell set. And after the show, he came up to me and said, you know, I like what you were doing up there. I'm thinking about putting a folk segment in my act, and I'd like to hire you. I said, well, I've already got a job with the Chad Mitchell Trio. He said, yeah, what are they paying you? I told him. He said, I'll double it. I went, okay. Sure. Cool. So I worked for Bobby, and Bobby loved folk music. He was a good folk singer. He was into the old prison songs like, "It's a long time now, feel bad." He was really good. And he used to want me to play faster and faster on this riff. Faster. Yeah, so there I'd be playing behind him and singing a harmony with him. And he let me sing. The Chad Mitchell Trio didn't let me sing because they were 3 singers, and if I'd sung, it would have been a quartet.
They'd have to change the name.
They would have changed the name. But Bobby let me even do a couple of songs on my own, and the audience liked it, and he was very, very supportive. He was a mentor. I used to follow him around and ask him questions about the show business and how to make it. He said, you know, one thing you have to do is perform in front of audiences as much as you can. It doesn't matter how good you are in the mirror in your house, because you have to test it under fire. It's a whole different dynamic out there.
Changes
Yeah,
completely.
so I started doing that. I started playing at coffee houses and wherever I could. The seed had been planted by Bobby Darin to do
Okay.
rock. And I was already a folkie, and I knew a million songs that had these chords.
Same chords.
Yeah, so it gave me an idea of taking like, oh, the water is wide, I cannot cross over, and neither have I wings to fly. I'm putting a rock beat to it, like. The water is wide, I cannot cross over, and neither have I wings will fly. Build me a boat that can carry two, and both shall roam, my love and I took it down to the village and played it for the people in the coffee house. They didn't like it.
They didn't go for it?
No, they were purists.
Oh.
They liked their folk music
Okay.
the straight way. Yeah.
Well, I guess I grew up with liking it that way better.
Well, I thought it was fun, and so I left New York. I went out to California, and that's how the Byrds got together. I was doing a solo gig doing folk songs with a Beatle beat, and nobody was liking it except one guy. His name was Gene Clark.
Gene Clark.
And he came backstage and said, let's write some songs. So we wrote some songs together, and David Crosby came along, and he knew a guy who had a recording studio we could use for free, and that was it, man. We were on our way. We got Michael Clark to be the drummer, and we got Chris Hillman to be the bass player. Chris was playing in a bluegrass band in Westwood called the Scottsville Squirrel Barkers.
Yeah, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. And we got him to come over and audition, play for us, and we gave him a bass, and he figured it out. So that's how we got going.
What a fascinating story. I'll tell you what, my producer is going to kill me here because we just have so many more things to talk about, more music that we want to hear from you, and we're going to make part 2 out of this. Is that okay with everybody? We're going to stop right now, and we're going to go to Behind the Guitar part 2 with Roger McGuinn. We're going to pick up with the Byrds.